So we'll be discussing all aspects of teaching English abroad. So we'll be talking about job markets, what the job is actually like. We'll be talking about how there's so much demand and why people want to hire you out there to go teach English in Spain or China or Japan or wherever, even if you don't have prior teaching experience. We'll be talking about TEFL certification. So how can you get the training and qualification that you need to actually get a job and become an effective teacher? And we'll talk a little bit about what we do here at International TEFL Academy in terms of providing the training, the services, the job placement assistance, and everything else that can enable you to live and work abroad and have a fantastic experience as an English teacher.
Okay, and the webcast tonight, if you guys have technical problems or if you need to run, don't worry. We do have a recorded version of this that we send out after the webcast ends this evening. So if you want to watch it later, share it with friends or family, you can do that again. And this is a little clip right here of our text chat box. It looks like you guys are getting the hang of it already, which is great. And you'll find that in the right-hand corner of your screen. So throughout the webcast this evening, you can text in your questions, and we'll do our best to get to everyone tonight. We did have close to 500 people register for the webcast, so we might not be able to get to everyone's questions, and if that happens, don't worry, get in touch with your advisor. I'm sure they'll be in contact with you as well, and they'll be able to help you out. If you don't have an advisor, you'll be assigned one after the webcast tonight, and they'll be able to advise you on your travel goals.
That's right, and we have 3 of us on the team here this evening. My name is John Bentley. I'm an admissions advisor here on the staff at ITA. I've been with ITA for 6 years, just about. I'm originally from Southern California, but I had the great fortune to grow up in Cairo, Egypt, one of the world's most colorful and historic cities. And so I was lucky to be able to live and work and travel abroad extensively from an early age. I've worked my entire career in international journalism, travel writing, educational travel, and teaching English abroad. So I'm really thrilled to be with everybody this evening, and very happy to introduce my my colleague and friend, Cassie Wells.
Now, I'm going to start doing my introduction first because I do not have such a seasoned background like you do, Mr. Bentley. I am from another historic town just like Cairo, Egypt. I'm from Valparaiso, Indiana. Cows and corn and all things Americana. I studied television at Columbia College in Chicago and worked in that career field for a couple years. And on my 24th birthday, as a gift to myself, I quit my job like a crazy person and then decided to teach English abroad in South Korea. It was my first time leaving the country, and it absolutely changed my life. I've traveled to many places since then and have no plans to stop. So it's been great to be here working with ITA for, almost 6 years as well. And now, Ian, a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hey everybody, my name is Ian Davis. I am an admissions advisor as well here at International TEFL Academy. And before I go to further introduce myself, Cassie, you should know Valparaiso, Indiana is oftentimes referred as the Cairo of the Midwest. So
thank you. All right, confirmed. I always had like a feeling, you know? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm originally from Michigan. I've been working in the world of international education and TEFL for about 8 years now. I've had an opportunity to travel and work in about work all over the world, about 20 different countries, and I'm here tonight to kind of do some of the Q&A stuff. So when you type in your questions, I'll be the one responding to them. As Cassie mentioned, we currently have just over 150 people in the webcast, and we probably expect some more joining throughout. So I'll try to get to everyone's questions, but if not, everything gets recorded and passed on to your advisor, so we definitely will get some great answers here for you. And so without further ado, John and Cassie, take it away.
All right, great. So just a quick overview of what we'll be covering this evening, a quick introduction of International TEFL Academy, who we are, what we do, how we can help you. We'll be going over the worldwide job market and discussing what the job of teaching English abroad is actually all about. We'll be discussing different countries and regions where you can teach and some of the variables and how things work in terms of interviews and visas and hiring requirements and salaries and that sort of thing. We'll be talking about a little bit about TEFL certification. So again, what are your options for getting the training and qualification that you need to actually get abroad a job as a professional English teacher overseas. Hopefully we'll have some time for Q&As. Again, feel free to shoot Ian a question at any time. And again, talk to your advisor. They'll be able to go over all of your questions and options in depth.
Yes, everyone ask Ian what the meaning of life is right now. I'm just kidding. Don't do that.
All right, who are we here at International TEFL Academy? All of our staff have lived, worked, traveled abroad extensively. It's basically a requirement. The first requirement to work here is to have that international experience. I'd say about 90% of our staff have taught English abroad. We have about 20, 25 folks on staff who work as advisors and in our student affairs department, helping our enrolled students and our graduates with getting settled into their courses and also with job placement assistance. We provide very comprehensive job placement assistance. We also have a couple dozen professors on staff. They also possess extensive experience teaching English abroad. They all possess advanced degrees and credentials, master's degrees, PhDs in teaching English as a foreign language and so forth. Basically, everybody here is passionate about traveling and living abroad. We want you to be able to have that same experience, and we hope that you end up enjoying it just as much as we all have in our experiences as well.
Yep, that's true. And our world headquarters is located in Chicago, one of the best cities in the world, I think, especially in the summertime. But we do have classrooms around the globe where you can complete your TEFL certification training. So you can sometimes go to your country of choice, take your class, and stay to work when you're done, which is pretty great. And we've got some really awesome locations throughout Latin America, Europe, Asia, and of course a handful peppered throughout the States.
That's right. And here are just some shots of some of our classroom facilities in Chicago and around the globe. We maintain small class sizes in all of our classes, whether they be on-site or online. All of our classes are taught, again, by experienced university instructors. All of our courses incorporate live practice teaching. That includes the online class. So any class that you take, you're going to be getting hands-on experience working with actual ESL students, which is key for preparing you for your job as an English teacher abroad.
And if you guys ever happen to be in the Chicagoland area, definitely come in and check us out. You can pick up some information to take home with you, sit down with an advisor and ask some questions. And if you give us a little bit of a heads up, we can even set up a time for you to sit in on a current TEFL class and see what all the buzz is about.
That's right, and that's basically what we do here. We specialize in professional level training courses for TEFL, T-E-F-L, which stands for Teaching English as a Foreign Language, and we provide lifetime comprehensive job placement assistance to all of our students and graduates.
And all of our classes, whether you do them online or in person, they're accredited and go above and beyond international standards for TEFL training. And we'll be expanding on those options a little bit later in the presentation. But first, we have a question for you guys. We want to know, do you know anyone that has taught English abroad, yes or no? And Ian will open up the poll and go ahead and make your selection in the quick poll box.
All right, Cassie, before you packed up like a mad woman and jumped on a plane to South Korea, did you have a chance to talk to anybody who had taught abroad, or did you know anyone who had done this first?
Making fun of my quarter-life crisis. That's okay. You know, I didn't, and I really kind of wish I did. I was feeling nervous about everything, and then I put my feelers out on social media, and I ended up knowing a girl I went to high school with that taught English abroad, and it was really great to talk to her. Although I'm fairly certain before talking to her, I knew I was going to do it anyway. But definitely helped to reaffirm my decision.
Excellent. Well, let's see what everyone at home is saying. All right, pretty good results. About 2/3 of everyone has met somebody or knows a friend of a friend or a cousin, or 6 degrees of separation of somebody who has taught abroad. While about 1/3 of you have not, and don't worry about that. You're talking with John and Cassie and I this evening, but you may end up being that trailblazer in the future that people look to that went overseas and taught English. And hopefully by the end of the night you'll be excited to start your adventure.
That's right. And I think one question that always comes up is who actually goes and lives in Japan or in Russia or in Argentina and works as an English teacher? And is this something that I can do even if I don't have teaching experience? Maybe I've never been out of the country. Maybe I don't have a college degree. And the answer is, for all of you out there tuning in, yeah, this is something that you can do. Here at International TEFL Academy, we train about 4,000 people a year to teach English abroad. Our graduates and students range in age from 19, 20 years old up to folks in their 60s and 70s. Certainly a lot of people do this in their 20s, maybe right after college, before they're sort of tied down with a career and a family. That said, we get people in their 30s, 40s, 50s looking to escape the cubicle. We have people coming in and out of institutions like the military, the Peace Corps, retirees, retired teachers. So this is really something that people from all walks of life do. And I think, just anecdotally, I'd say, 40, 50% of the people who we train and then who go teach abroad have never been out of their home country. So this is a great way to really kick off your international adventures.
It is. That's very true. And why people do this? Well, there are a lot of benefits to teaching English abroad, some obvious, some not so obvious, and I'm going to cover them with you. So first and foremost, it's an easy and affordable way to travel the world. It's probably the easiest way to get a job in a foreign country, just because English is the international business language, and you'll be able to travel around not just regionally, but to nearby countries. And you get to live life as a local, not a rushed vacationer. If I had a highlighter and could circle this 800 times, I would. When you go on a trip and you pack your bags and you travel through a country, you have a great experience, but you come home exhausted, and maybe you're seeing just a handful of things a country has to offer. With this, you get to unpack your bags and call another country home for 6 to 12 months, and it is awesome. And a great way to learn a new language. It's the only way to truly become fluent in another language, is to live in a country where it's spoken. And you get to travel locally to nearby countries, which I just said a few minutes ago. And you get to meet new people from all over the world. You'll work at a school that has, teachers from the States, Canada, the UK, New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, other countries. So you'll have an eclectic group of friends, to say the least. And there are some financial benefits to some countries, things like free round-trip airfare, free housing, paid vacation, health benefits, year-end bonuses, and the opportunity to travel. Not every country does this, but many do. And I think moral of the story is you're getting paid to live overseas. So you can have an adventurous life and go have this big international journey, but still be a financially responsible adult. So win-win.
Yeah, that's right. I think a lot of people have a question, well, why are there so many jobs? Why are so many people learning English? And the bottom line is that, especially in this interconnected, globalized economy of the 21st century, English really is the international language of commerce and culture, business, travel, education, almost any field. I was watching the Euro soccer championships, and there's a referee from Turkey. He's talking to a player from Italy. They're speaking in English. So English is really the language that connects the globe. I think the internet is at about 75% in English. And for people from all walks of life and all backgrounds, all corners of the world, English in many cases is a way to enhance their professional and educational opportunities, and it's really something that can make a difference in their future and the future of their children.
And another example for you guys, just to put it into perspective. So there's an auto parts store in Japan, and it needs to order parts from a German manufacturer. The shop owner isn't going to call up an associate in Germany and speak German, and that German associate will most likely not speak Japanese. That'd be really cool, but probably not. Instead, they're going to communicate in the international business language, which is English.
Yeah, so just for a little bit more perspective to sort of quantify this with some numbers, according to the British Council, 1.7 billion people are using and learning English worldwide in 2016. This translates into literally hundreds of thousands of job opportunities for English speakers to live and work as English teachers in foreign countries. If you drill down a little bit further and look at, let's say, major cities in Europe, places like Rome or Madrid or Istanbul, or South America, maybe Buenos Aires or Rio de Janeiro, you're going to find literally dozens, if not hundreds, of language schools in each of those cities. We did a count in Madrid recently. I think we found 500 or 600 language schools in Madrid alone. Each of these schools is employing 10, 20, 50 teachers. So when you multiply that out, in most cities there are 3,000 to 5,000 English teachers working at any given time. And then if you look at Asia, the really big cities and markets are places like Shanghai, Seoul, Tokyo, Bangkok. There are 10, 15, 20,000 foreigners teaching English in each of those cities. So if you're a native English speaker or even a fluent English speaker, you really do possess a skill that is in high demand.
We did already send it in. I told her about it.
Okay, and there's also a big question I get are people asking, well, I know Spain is popular or Korea is popular. Are there going to be any jobs left for me? And to answer that, absolutely yes. The average language center abroad probably loses about 50% of their teachers every year. And not because teachers don't like it, it's just, hey, I spent a year in Korea. Now I want to go travel or, visit another country or go home for a bit. And people do stay, but many choose to venture on to other countries. So if anything, these markets are like revolving doors and they're never really saturated.
She just asked me to write like a letter they can deliver to the senator.
Okay, so now we're going to start with who you can teach.
I got it in the mail.
Hang on just a second. I'm going to mute in there. Okay, so now we're going to start with who you can teach. This is another big question. You can help shape the lives of children as young as kindergarten, all the way up to helping adults and business professionals achieve their next level of English proficiency. So adults or kids, there's quite a range that you can be working with. So here's a picture. We've got Thomas on the left working in Cambodia. If you want to wear, a tank top and shorts to work, Cambodia might be a place for you. And then we have Lisa over in Thailand, and she is working with some college students and adults. And I've worked with both types of students. I can tell you, try not to pigeonhole yourself with only wanting to work with one type of student. I think you'll find that both classroom situations are going to be equally fulfilling.
That's right, and there, any number of different types of schools or language institutes. I'd say, for the most part, the vast majority of job opportunities teaching abroad are going to be in private language centers. So these are typically private language schools, private enterprises. They specialize in language training. Very often they're catering to adults, people in business, tourism, government officials, university students, and so forth. That said, many of them also give lessons to children. Then there are opportunities to work in actual schools, high schools, grade schools, what we call in the U.S. public schools. There are big programs in countries like France, Spain, South Korea, Japan, where they have big programs that actually recruit Americans and other English speakers to come work as teachers or assistant language teachers in their public school system. And then there are any number of other sort of different options. There are short-term summer camp options in some countries, primarily in Europe, and a lot of English teachers actually work as private tutors, either full-time or part-time, in almost every country around the world.
Now, what a typical work week will look like for you. So you can expect to teach maybe 4 to 5 classes a day, ranging from, usually 45 minutes to an hour long, so pretty quick. And they can be in block hours or spread out throughout the day, like a college course day, something like that. But you can expect to teach about 20 to 25 hours. That's physical teaching time in front of a class each week. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, depending on where you are. And you'll want to tack on maybe 8 to 10 hours of prep time each week so that you can lesson plan and just get ready for your classes.
That's right. I think certainly a lot of people have questions. Hey, if I'm going to be teaching English in Madrid or Tokyo or wherever it is, where am I going to live and how am I going to find a place to live, especially if I don't know the local language? As Cassie mentioned, there are going to be some countries, and this is the case in, let's say, South Korea or a place like China very often, where schools will provide their teachers with actual free housing. But this is not the case in most countries. In most cases, you will be responsible for renting basically your own apartment or your own flat or house. But don't fret. In most countries and major cities around the globe, there are loads of English language resources, especially online. Very often your school, even if they don't provide you with actual housing, will provide you with guidance and assistance and tips and that sort of thing. And then word of mouth is huge. As we mentioned before, there are large communities of English teachers and other expatriates in most major cities around the world. People are constantly coming and going, and you're always running into people who are looking for an apartment, looking to share an apartment, looking for somebody to share a flat and what have you. So regardless of where you want to teach, don't fret, you won't be going homeless. And I would definitely recommend talking to your advisor more about options in particular countries that you're considering.
All right, so here's the part where everybody laughs at my jokes and I feel better about myself. Okay, great. So why would someone want you or myself to teach them English? Why do people want to learn from a native speaker? Here are a few examples. So 1, I wouldn't reach for a hand grenade if there was a fire. That's also not a hand grenade, but, you know, glass half empty, half full, it's up to you. And then please present your octopus. I feel like that's a little much. If someone asked me that, I might get a little angry, or I feel like maybe I need friends that have pet octopi or something. I'm not sure. And then cat smack is not something you want to be feeding your poor little cat. This cat, too late. He's gone. He looks like he's seen better days, which is unfortunate. And then Microsoft Bimbos is close, like really close. Like I would do a walk by and probably not realize it, but that is definitely not what Bill Gates was going for. All right, everybody, let's catch your breath now after those great jokes. But employers want you because you are the model, and your students, they'll want to talk like you and sound like you do, have your Midwest accent if you have one, and you're going to bring English into context along with your culture and enthusiasm. And I'm seeing people ask in the chat, they're asking, what about knowing the language? When you go abroad to work, they want you to teach in full immersion, using the full immersion method, which means you'll be speaking English and English only at all times during class, so you don't need to worry about speaking the native language. However, just to be nice and a good traveler, I would definitely recommend starting to pick up some basic phrases before you go, just so it's easier for you to get around right off the bat.
Yeah, so as an English teacher, you're going to be responsible for teaching the cornerstones of language acquisition and learning, speaking, reading, writing, vocabulary, grammar, all the usual stuff. As Cassie just mentioned, conversational English is a huge deal. People want and need to be able to follow a conversation in real time, to participate in conversations. They need to do it for business. They want to watch TV. They want to watch movies. So again, you will serve as a model in terms of exposing your students to how English is actually spoken in the real world, and that's something you can really only do as a native or very fluent English speaker.
And here are some of the tools and techniques you'll come to master with your TEFL training. Things like lesson planning, so you can create materials for any type of student you encounter. Also error correction types, so you can best correct an error of your student while still encouraging them to participate in class. That's a big one. And using visual aids to enhance your effectiveness is very important, all the way to how to set up your physical classroom environment so that it best caters to your different lessons.
All right, so we've talked a little bit about, what the actual job of teaching abroad is like, and I think one question that people always have is, hey, where can I teach English abroad? Can I teach in Spain? Can I teach in Costa Rica? Can I teach in Thailand? What are my options? And the bottom line is that if you're a native or a fluent English speaker, even if you don't have a background in education, even if maybe you don't even have a college degree or you've never taken a college class, you're still going to have a lot of options. So we'll be going over those in a second, but first we have another poll question. Where do you want to teach English abroad? Europe, Latin America, Asia, Middle East, or all of the above? Ian's going to throw up the poll, so make your selection. Hey, Ian, if you were to get on a plane tomorrow and go anywhere in the world, where would you go to teach English?
Well, my first requirement would be a location where I don't accidentally leave my microphone on while doing a webcast and people talking when they come on my desk. But if you had to ask, I would really like to go to a place, maybe like Ecuador. I'm really into warm weather. I'm loving these summer months, and I know winter is coming, and so someplace warm. I like the cuisine down there. I probably should learn Spanish at some point in my life. Yeah, so that's what I'm going with today. Ask me again tomorrow. It'll be someplace totally different. So.
What about you, Cassie?
Oh gosh, I think maybe Japan or Chile or the Czech Republic or like 8 other places. So don't ask me that question. I'll be here all night. Okay,
Pretty
so
even spread with the attendees, though. I think this would be the first time I've seen Asia edge out Europe. Not by much, so that's great. If you guys see this at home, it's pretty good mix. And I always love those who are looking to go anywhere or unsure, because there's so many cool opportunities, which Cassie and John are going to be discussing here momentarily, that if you come into this with a certain sense of flexibility, you're really going to end up finding something really, really cool.
Yes, that's a great piece of advice. Definitely keep that in mind. As you guys begin choosing your adventure, here are some of the job market basic key points that will help you focus in on some of your highest priority destinations and maybe help you discover some countries that would be a great fit for you that you never considered before. So we're going to talk about interviews, types of visas, degree requirements, types of positions, hiring seasons, money, the lovely uncomfortable subject, and contract and contract length.
That's right. So one thing you're definitely going to want to research and learn more about are interview procedures. You will be interviewing for your job teaching English abroad. And interview procedures vary from country to country and region to region. There's some parts of the world, and this is often the case in many Latin American countries, many Western European countries, places like Spain and Italy in many cases, where schools are recruiting and hiring locally, and they're interviewing face-to-face. So if you want to teach English in Argentina, Buenos Aires, for example, you're going to go down there with your TEFL certification, use all of the resources and contacts that we provide. You're going to set up interviews, and you're going to interview on the spot, get some job offers, take a job, and typically begin teaching right away. In other parts of the world, and this is typical in many East Asian countries, places like South Korea, China, Japan, for example, Middle Eastern countries, or countries like, let's say, Turkey or Russia, you're interviewing in advance over the phone, by Skype, maybe with a recruiter here in the States or Canada, and you line up your job before you actually get on a plane and head overseas. So some people really like having that security of having a job lined up. Others like to scope things out face-to-face, in person. Again, talk to your advisor about how things work in particular countries that you're interested in going to.
Okay, and next up, you'll want to consider the type of visa you'll be on. So employers in some countries will provide you with a work visa or a work permit, while in other countries you'll simply work on a student visa or tourist visa. Some of the government-run programs can also sponsor cultural visas. Long story short here, we have alumni in a little over 80 countries. If we covered visas and visa requirements for all of them, there would be like a mob outside my door saying, why was this the most boring thing I ever sat through? So I'm not going to do that to you, but when you have a list, maybe a handful of countries that you're interested in, call your advisor, and they'll be able to tell you what paperwork you need, what visa you're going to be on, and how it will work. That's something we definitely give guidance for, but I'm not going to punish everyone tonight, unfortunately. Or you're welcome, either one.
Yes, and then there are degree requirements. So in some countries, basically, it's a legal requirement that you possess a 4-year degree in addition to a TEFL certification. This is true in countries like, let's say, South Korea or Japan. That said, hey, you don't have a 4-year degree, maybe you have an associate's degree, don't fret. You're going to have a lot of options. I think by our count, there are 50 countries in the world where you can teach without a 4-year degree. So again, look at the country profiles on our site. Talk to your advisor, and you'll definitely be able to find options based on your own circumstances and background.
And we did cover types of positions a few slides back, but you'll want to consider your working environment. So would you like to work in a public school setting where you are the English teacher, or maybe a private school where you can be one of up to maybe 20 or 30 native English speaking teachers just like yourself? Or do you want to work part-time or have a more flexible schedule and work as a private tutor? So there's a couple different options.
That's right. And then hiring season. So teaching English abroad is something that just about anybody can do, but it definitely takes foresight and planning. And one matter to consider are definitely going to be hiring seasons. In some parts of the world, hiring for English teachers is going to be very cyclical or seasonal. This is the case in Western Europe, for example, or Latin America, and places like Spain, for example. Schools are hiring and recruiting teachers locally, typically in September, maybe into October after the summer vacation, and then in January after the big winter break. In other parts of the world, schools are hiring year-round. So in China, many of the big East Asian markets, hey, you can get an interview 365 days a year. There are all kinds of schools. They're not all operating according to a traditional academic calendar per se. So there's just a lot of variety, a lot of variables, and a lot of options. I think the moral of the story is wherever you decide you want to go, though, is that you need to put together a timeline and you need to give yourself typically at least 3 to 6 months to let the process play out. And what we mean by that is getting in touch with your advisor, learning about your options, picking a TEFL class, enrolling in that TEFL class, and then once you're enrolled in your TEFL class, then you can begin receiving job placement assistance, working with our job placement advisors, and preparing for your job search. And so while you're actually taking your TEFL class, let's say an online class, you can begin interviewing and talking to schools and recruiters around the globe. And again, typically it's not a case of whether you're going to get a job, but which job is best for you. But you do need to let that process play out. And there are other factors that play into that as well in terms of getting your documents together. In some cases, you're going to need to get a visa processed. You're going to need to get travel arrangements made, buy your airline ticket. And so this is typically going to take, again, 3 to 6 months, in some cases even longer. So if you're looking to teach English abroad by, let's say, the last couple months of 2016 or the first half of 2017, now is the time to get in touch with your advisor, put together a timeline, put together a plan, enroll in your TEFL class, and get the ball rolling.
And a great resource we have for everybody that will help you narrow down your country selection, and some of you may have seen this already, but this is a screenshot of our country chart. This lists the more popular destinations and provides an overview of the different TEFL marketplaces. And Ian will go ahead and paste the link to this chart in the chat box for now, but I would definitely wait to dive into that until we're done with the webcast tonight, because we're going to talk about some very important topics up next, like money.
Money, money, money. Yeah, so the bottom line is, I think for all of us, finances are something we have to really consider and look at and plan for when we're looking at going abroad. The good news is, hey, as Cassie mentioned earlier, your TEFL certification is going to qualify you for full-time paid employment. You're going to get paid to live overseas, which is fantastic. Almost anywhere that you're going to get a job teaching English abroad, you're going to be making enough money to support yourself, cover your expenses, your rent, travel, going out on the weekends, food, bus money, all that sort of stuff. In many cases, hey, you're going to be breaking even. That means you're probably going to be, again, covering your expenses but not putting money in the bank at the end of every month. You're probably going to go home with as much money as you had when you began your adventure. Hey, if you want to go somewhere, though, that you can save or make extra money, there are definitely options, particularly in East Asia or the Middle East, where English teachers can make and save anywhere from $500 to $1,000, maybe even $1,500 a month after expenses. So if you have student debt you need to pay off, or you just want to save money for extended travel after your contract, or you just want to plan for the next chapter of your life, there are definitely countries where you can make and save money and enjoy a very good lifestyle. So again, look at that country chart, talk to your advisor, and we'll be able to help you out with your options.
Yeah, so then you also want to consider contracts. So are you interested in doing a typical 10 or 12-month contract, or are you like, some students that want to go abroad for just a summer, maybe 3 to 6 months, or maybe you're like us and you want to teach abroad in 1 or more countries for 1 or more years. So I would try to take it 1 year at a time. The whole 5-year planning thing doesn't seem to work out abroad. So take it 1 day at a time, 1 year at a time, for sure.
Yeah, and when you're looking at options for countries to go to, we definitely recommend being open-minded. There are tons of places where you can go and have a great experience, including many that you probably haven't even thought of. You're going to need to weigh a variety of considerations: finances, your background. Do you have a degree? Is there a particular language you want to learn? Are you like Cassie or Ian? Maybe you're from the Midwest and you want to live in a tropical country for the first time in your life. These are all things to think about, talk to your advisor about, and again, be open-minded, and the more places you're willing to consider, the more options you're going to have.
All right, so let's zoom in on some of the regional marketplaces, starting with Europe. Top 6 markets we have in random order: Germany, Poland, Russia, the Czech Republic, Italy, and Spain. Fun fact, did you know locals in the Czech Republic drink more beer per capita than any other country in the world? And it's typically cheaper than water. Now, this is the part of the webcast where we lose like 3/4 of our listeners, and they're all packing their bags, getting ready to move to the Czech Republic. But please stay with us. But yeah, the Czech Republic is awesome, probably beautiful, and hey, let's meet for beers, shall we?
That's right. Another fun fact: Cassie and Ian recently hosted an alumni meetup in Prague, Czech Republic. So it's definitely a big place for our students and graduates to go to. But the bottom line is, hey, the job market for English teachers is booming across Europe, from Spain to Russia. We'll talk about some of these countries right now. There are a lot of variables. A lot of these countries are different in terms of hiring procedures, visas, all of that good stuff. So again, look at the country profiles on our website, look at that country chart, and talk to your advisor about how things work in particular countries.
And interviews in Western Europe, these are going to be done in country with the expectation of starting your teaching position right away. You can find in advance interviews more towards Central and Eastern Europe for you big planners out there. And most Americans working in Western Europe will do so on a tourist visa or student visa. But there are some outliers like Germany, the Czech Republic, Turkey, Russia, Poland, a couple other Eastern European countries that will give work permits. And also Ministry of Education programs, those public school programs in Spain and France. I believe the Republic of Georgia as well, maybe. But there are a couple different places that will offer those cultural visas.
That's right. And in most places in Europe, certainly a 4-year degree helps. That said, it's not a legal requirement in most countries, and we have students without degrees who get jobs in countries like Germany and Spain and Russia and other Eastern European countries, maybe Italy. Usually, most jobs are going to be in private language institutes teaching adults, maybe children. And as Cassie just mentioned, there are public school programs in countries like Spain and France that offer opportunities to work with kids.
And the ideal times to start your job search in Europe are going to be September and October. Then again in January, those are the peak turnover times for new teachers taking on new contracts. So this is when you want to be in Europe. There are year-round hiring seasons in some countries like Russia, Turkey, the Republic of Georgia, and contract length, yes, definitely 10 to 12 months. And the majority of English teachers will break even in Europe. So you'll live comfortably, but afford basic living expenses, light travel. So you live a comfortable middle-class lifestyle. You're not striking it rich. We all get into education for the millions of dollars we make, right? Sarcasm, very much so sarcasm. But you'll live comfortably and have a great lifestyle. You might be able to save a little bit of money here and there, but chances are you'll end up spending it on further travel while you're abroad.
That's right. Living in Europe is one of those experiences you'll never forget. But hey, Latin America is one of the fastest growing job markets in the world for teaching English overseas. Some of the top job markets: Costa Rica, Chile, Argentina, Mexico, Peru, Brazil. Nicaragua is sort of the hidden secret. That said, hey, you could easily throw Colombia on this list, Ecuador. Lots of options. And fun fact, Cassie, did you know there are 2,484 miles of coastline in Chile? So if you like long walks on the beach or ceviche, you want to learn how to surf, that might be the place for you.
And that's the part where I leave the webcast and start packing my bags. No, I'm kidding. The major hiring periods in Central America, these are going to occur in February, March, and then again in June and July. Mexico offers peak hiring year-round, which is great. And throughout the region, wages are going to be modest. Like, you'll look at the country chart and see in some of these places you're only earning like $700 to $900 a month, and you might be thinking that's crazy. But given the low cost of living, full-time English teachers here are able to live comfortably. You have to remember that the dollar goes farther in some countries as opposed to our own. And many teachers here will also share accommodations with other teachers and maybe private tutor on the side as a way to make and save some extra money.
That's right, and the strong dollar has made it even cheaper to live in this part of the world. Interviews for getting jobs in Latin America typically going to be face-to-face. Again, this is the case in places like Argentina, Brazil, Peru, Costa Rica, and so forth. There are increasingly more opportunities to interview in advance over the phone, by Skype, and so forth, to line up a job in advance. This is often the case in Chile, Colombia, Mexico, and increasingly in some other countries around the world. Again, talk to your advisor about how things work in particular countries where you're interested in going.
And most English language teachers here are going to work on a tourist visa every 90 days by visiting a neighboring country. And that's really the standard operating procedure for most of Latin America. And really, it's a great excuse to travel regionally so you can visit more new places while continuing to teach abroad. And schools typically hire once in the early months from January to March, and then again in July or August. So keep those time frames in mind. And English teachers here, again, you're going to live comfortably, earn enough money to afford basic living expenses and then some, but I would count on breaking even.
Certainly having a degree helps in Latin America. That said, hey, if you don't have a four-year degree, or let's say you don't have citizenship from a native English-speaking country, Latin America is definitely a part of the world that you need to consider. In almost all of these countries, they tend to be a lot less restrictive when it comes to hiring requirements for degrees and citizenship and that sort of thing. And these really are fantastic places to live, work, and travel. Again, most jobs are going to be teaching adults in private language schools. There are any number of opportunities to work with young learners. A lot of English teachers also work as private tutors or independent contractors in this part of the world, and that gives them more control over how long they stay and work in a particular country or region.
All right, now for the biggest TEFL marketplace in the world, it's the Asian market. Top 6 markets in random order are South Korea, China, Taiwan, Thailand, Japan, and Vietnam. And a fun fact, there are more students learning English in China than the entire population of the United States. So basically, they will never have enough teachers. I know we all get emails here occasionally from directors in big Chinese cities that are like, we need 500 teachers immediately. And like, yeah, it's way too many. But lots of opportunity there.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, 400 million people learning English in China alone. It's just astounding. I think the bottom line is that in addition to being the largest, region or job market in the world for teaching English, Cassie, Ian, myself, most of the folks on our staff have lived, worked, and traveled in Asia extensively, and I think we'd all agree, whether it's China, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia, these are fantastic places to live, work, and travel. If you're looking for a great international experience and you're also looking to work and teach in a region where you can make and save great money, get benefits like free airfare and housing and paid vacation and health insurance and so forth, you have to consider Asia. These are large countries. They have huge populations. They're very prosperous. Education is like religion in many of these societies, so they invest and concentrate heavily on English. They depend on international trade and business, so they understand the importance of English. And all of these factors really combine to make Asia, again, by far the largest job market and one of the most lucrative for teaching English abroad.
All true. Yep. I recommend it. Interviews are generally conducted in advance through email or over the phone and via Skype. So in most of Asia, you can have your job waiting for you before you leave your home country. All you big planners with sticky notes all over your notebook right now for the notes you've been taking, just a collective sigh of relief. You can have a job in advance. And the majority of opportunities will be in private language academies. So these schools are up and running the majority of the year, which means year-round hiring. And in this region, employers also typically sponsor you for a working visa as well. So for those of you that want that extra level of convenience or comfort, definitely check out your options in Asia.
That's right. And Asia is certainly one part of the world where they tend to be a little bit more strict, or perhaps a lot more strict, about requiring a 4-year degree in many countries. It's basically a legal requirement in places like South Korea, Japan, Thailand, Vietnam these days. That said, hey, you don't have a 4-year degree, you still have options in some fantastic countries like China, as we mentioned, the largest job market in the world, or a place like Cambodia, which is a beautiful Southeast Asian tropical country that really offers a lot in terms of culture and history and food and everything. So there are options for you if you don't have a 4-year degree. Most positions are going to be teaching young learners. That said, again, Asia is a huge market, and there are certainly opportunities to work with adults, people in business, and so forth as well.
And Asia is also an area of the world where you can easily save a great deal of your salary. So for those of you that have student loans, or if you're just in need of saving money, maybe for further travel, you can find that in Asia. So myself, I was usually able to save about $1,000 to $1,500 each month living in Korea. And that was in addition to having my flights paid for and my housing provided. So yeah, I think every few weeks I would ask myself, like, why isn't everyone here? You know, like, why would you ever sit at a job you really despise if you could be doing this? And contract lengths are generally going to be 12 months in Asia, some 6-month opportunities here and there, but they're very rare. And many of you, like many of us, will end up probably staying much longer. So like, don't freak out. You might like this and want to do it for a while. I saw someone asking if you can stay longer. And if you have a good relationship with your employer, chances are they're going to ask you to stay.
Yeah, we've had colleagues who've taught in Asia for years and years and years, and with the demand, you can definitely stay. But last but not least, the Middle East, my old stomping ground. Some of the top job markets going to include the UAE, the United Arab Emirates. That incorporates Dubai and Abu Dhabi, Saudi Arabia, Morocco, Qatar, Kuwait, Turkey. You could certainly throw Tunisia or Egypt on that list as well. Did you know Dubai is the fastest growing city in the world? And Cassie, you can also ride your camel to your penthouse at the end of the day. How great is that?
I mean, thank God. You know, it's just been so hard for me lately. So, wow, thanks.
Can't do that in Chicago, I can tell you.
No.
The oil-rich nations of the Persian Gulf offer some of the most lucrative English teaching positions in the world. That said, they also tend to be some of the most competitive and smallest job markets. So schools very often, this is one part of the world where it's harder to get a job if you don't have, let's say, previous teaching experience or an advanced degree. That's not to say it's impossible, but it's definitely more challenging, and you should be flexible if you're looking to work in these countries without experience. Interview procedures, you are typically interviewing in advance by phone, email, Skype. You're lining up your visa in advance. Contract lengths typically going to be 10 to 12 months, in some cases 24 months. Again, you will have a work visa. This is definitely one part of the world where they do sort of set you up with everything before you actually go over there.
And interviews for positions in countries like Egypt or Morocco or Jordan, these are likely to be conducted in country. So it's a little bit different than the Gulf states where you can get everything lined up in advance. As well, in the Gulf where you can secure work visas in advance, ESL teachers in this part of the Middle East should anticipate working on a tourist visa. And contract lengths are going to be anywhere from 6 to 12 months. All right, so now you know more about where you can go, and now we're going to talk a little bit about how we can help you really assist you in making this adventure less of a pipe dream and more of a reality. So in addition to your TEFL advisor, who will help you create your travel plans, once enrolled, you'll work with a job search guidance advisor to prep you for your hiring process. And this really includes things like assistance with your resume and cover letter. Want to make sure those are spotless and in the international format, and advice and information on hiring seasons, visas, education and citizenship requirements, as well as our resources. You'll get access to a ton of resources, and it's one of the things that really makes ITA stand out. We have a 500-page and counting job search guidance manual that basically lists step-by-step what you need to do to get a job just about anywhere. And you'll get access to hundreds of ESL job boards and an ESL school directory with over 10,000 employers listed. We also give referrals to top recruiters, and recruiters are people that will set up interviews for you in the very big markets like in Korea, Taiwan, and China.
That's right. And another great perk of being an International TEFL Academy student or later a graduate is we have a very vibrant alumni association. So with more than 10,000 graduates teaching English in more than 80 countries worldwide, we've set up channels and networks on social media where our students and graduates can network with each other, ask questions, correspond, share job tips, and all sorts of information. In fact, if you head over to one of these Facebook groups, for example, and you can do that even if you're not yet a student, though you can't post, you'll see all sorts of fascinating discussions, questions, people posting jobs and stuff like that. People also arrange social meetups and so forth. Our Alumni Association also sponsors all sorts of contests, meetups all over the globe. As I mentioned earlier, Cassie and Ian were recently in Prague where they hosted a meetup. Later this year, we're going to have a worldwide meetup where alumni all over the world are going to be meeting on the same day and sharing their experiences on Facebook and social media. So really, as soon as you enroll in your TEFL class with ITA, you become part of this truly international community of travelers and teachers, and it's really especially if you haven't been abroad before, a great way to tap into the experiences of other people like yourself, and to become, again, part of a larger community. All right, on to TEFL certification. It's probably not the sexiest part of this whole presentation or the whole experience, but it is critical. In this day and age, folks, schools around the world are not going to hire you off the street or off the internet just because you happen to speak English. They do want to hire folks who have received proper training to be an actual English teacher. If you Google TEFL certification online, you're going to find all sorts of options and programs and courses. It's key to note that not all courses are the same, not all programs are the same, and there are standards that schools are looking for, especially when they're looking to hire professional full-time teachers. So when you're looking at a TEFL class, here are some things that you need to look for. You want to take a class that incorporates at least 100 hours of coursework. That's equivalent to a 4-week full-time intensive class, or the equivalent online. You want to take a class that incorporates live practicum. That is live practice teaching with actual ESL students, not role-playing with other Americans or English speakers who you're taking your class with. You're becoming a teacher, so hey, you want to take a class that is taught by professional instructors. So again, folks who have master's degrees, PhDs in the field of teaching English as a foreign language, and folks who have experience teaching English overseas. And again, this is something that all of our instructors possess. And you want to take a class that is actually accredited by a recognized authority that is going to externally monitor and ensure the quality of the TEFL class that you take.
And whether you take one of our in-person classes around the world or our very popular online approach, do know that you're receiving the same level of quality and service. Honestly, it's really just a matter of your best fit and preference in a course. So yeah, one is not better than the other. You're not going to get better jobs with one or the other. They're really the same. It's just a matter of preference.
That's right. Same curriculum, same class, same certification, same accreditation. When you're looking at an in-person TEFL class, here are the basic parameters. You're looking at a 4-week full-time class. So this is basically like boot camp for English teachers. You're in class 9 to 5, 5 days a week. In some cases, you may be doing some practicum in the evening. You may have some homework. So it is an intensive university-level professional training course. Again, all of these courses are going to meet those standards of 100 hours of coursework, live practice teaching. We maintain very small class sizes, 12 students or less. It's really important when you're learning to be an English teacher that you take a class where it's going to be interactive, where you have a personal, interpersonal learning environment. Tuition for these classes typically going to range from $1,500 to about $2,000, in some cases a little bit more. That does not include travel, food, housing, and so forth. Again, as Cassie mentioned earlier in the broadcast, we offer 4-week TEFL classes all over the world. So if you want to go and take a class in, let's say, Costa Rica or Thailand, these are great options. You can go and take the class, and then the staff on the ground will help you with lining up job interviews and job positions. Or if you want to take an in-person class in the United States before going abroad, hey, come to Chicago, maybe Boston, maybe New York. We have options in the United States as well. Again, all of these classes are going to meet the same standards and provide you with the same level of certification.
Okay, and now a little bit about our online TEFL course, definitely our most popular option. This class is 11 weeks long and part-time. I'd say you could spend maybe 8 to 10 hours on the work each week, and there are start dates and end dates to this class. You're going to cover 150 hours of coursework and 20 hours of practicum or student teaching, and I'll talk about that in just a second. And the class is also led by professional instructors with at least a master's degree in TEFL, TESOL, or related field. And it is an accredited course by the TQUK, which is an internationally known authority. And we also keep class sizes small, 20 students per class. You will get to know them, which is great. And if you're a visual learner like me, you're not going to miss out with the online course. There are videos embedded into the course content, live webcasts similar to this, and your professor will also have live office hours so you can get in touch with them if need be, and you likely will. And tuition for the online course is $13.95, but it is being discounted to $12.45, I believe, until the 15th of this month. And a little bit about the practicum. So this is something that you're going to complete local to you. We'll provide assistance, like we have a list of preferred places where you can volunteer, but honestly, you're going to be reaching out to community centers, like YMCAs, Boys and Girls Clubs, refugee centers, community colleges, faith-based organizations, libraries, ethnic restaurants. It doesn't have to be in a public school, but we want you to take the methods you're learning in class and try them out with real non-native speakers. And there will be a packet for you to fill out, so someone will sign off on your hours and you'll write about your experience in the class. I encourage everyone just to go to Google, type in your zip code and ESL classes and see what pops up.
That's right. And, you know, there are a lot of benefits to taking your TEFL class online. Certainly it may not be as sexy as going to Florence for 4 weeks or something like that. But the bottom line is it is the most cost-effective route to getting your TEFL certification. Typically, you're going to save $500 to $700 on tuition alone compared to an in-person class. That will jump to maybe $2,000 difference if you consider travel to an international location, food, and other ancillary expenses. Also, the online class, it's specifically designed to accommodate people who are working or going to school full-time. So if you want to continue to generate income while you're getting your TEFL certification, this is definitely the way to go. Or maybe you're a student in college and you want to knock out your certification, maybe line up a job so you have a job waiting for you after graduation and, you know, teaching English in Turkey or Korea or some other great location. This is definitely the way to go. Also, it provides the most flexibility when it comes to your job search, and you do begin receiving job placement assistance while you're taking the class. So while you're getting certified, you're working with our advisors, you're putting together your cover letter, your resume, you're getting your documents ready, start getting in touch with schools and recruiters. It's not uncommon for us to have students who have a job waiting for them by the time they do finish the online class. And it gives you the option of applying and looking at job opportunities all over the globe. So you can be talking to schools and recruiters in Korea at the same time, hey, you can be looking at jobs in Chile or Turkey or Russia or Saudi Arabia or just about anywhere else for that matter. So it provides, again, really the most flexibility, it's the most cost effective, and it does meet the same standards and provides the same certification that that any on-site class will as well.
All right, so here's what you need to do now. You need to talk with your advisor, ask your questions, go over your plans, and decide on a TEFL class that's right for you and get yourself certified. Then you want to go teach, go travel, go explore, be in touch with us in our alumni groups, drop us a postcard. We love to hear from everybody.
That's right, and to thank everybody for spending a little bit of time with us today, we're going to send you all a $50 coupon that you can use for any online TEFL class or 4-week TEFL class in Chicago, Nicaragua, or Costa Rica. You can use this discount coupon in addition to any existing discounts. So for example, if you enroll by June 15th, or July 15th in a couple of days, there's a $150 discount. If you use this coupon, hey, you'll save $200. Hey, that's 2 months rent in Nicaragua. We understand that going abroad is a major endeavor. It requires a financial commitment, so we want to make it a little bit easier for you to be able to realize your goal and teach English abroad. And Cassie, like we always like to say at the end of these broadcasts, do something today that your future self will thank you for. And I think for my 2 cents and Ian's 2 cents and Cassie's 2 cents, that means going out, seeing the world, make a difference in the lives of others, and have that international adventure that you've been looking for. So again, thanks for everybody. I know we're just about at 6 o'clock, maybe a minute or two after, but Ian, can we take a question or two before we wrap up?
Well, John, I've been feverishly typing the entire webcast, so we may have answered every single question in existence up until this point. I wonder if some of you maybe weren't paying attention throughout the webcast. But no, there's certainly some questions left here. Some of you asked more than others, but if you guys have something that didn't get answered throughout, feel free to type it in to the text box now. You know, there was one that has continued to come up, and maybe you can talk about this a little bit, John. I answered this maybe 10 times a night, but a lot of people want to know, if you're still in college, do you need a degree in a specific field? When we say a 4-year degree is required, are we talking about a specific major or a field of study? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's a good question, and the answer is no. In 95% of the cases around the world, when they say they're looking for a degree and a TEFL certification, that degree does not have to be in teaching English as a foreign language or education or English literature. Not that you're going to be teaching Shakespeare to Japanese businessmen or what have you. Basically, they're looking for any degree: psychology, sports management, Middle Eastern history, Spanish, whatever it is. Basically, they're looking for that 4-year degree from an accredited university. It's your TEFL certification that's going to provide you with the training that you need for working as a specific English, specifically as a professional English teacher. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I think that's sufficient. So long story short, it can be in any field of study. And for those of you who don't have your 4-year degree, this came up a lot. You have a ton of great options in Latin America, Asia, Europe. Talk with your advisor, and they'll kind of give you the best options for whatever you're looking to get out of this experience. Cassie, as briefly as you can, another really common question throughout is talking about going with a spouse or going with a friend or possibly going with like a family member. So can you speak a little bit about maybe going abroad with a friend or a spouse or significant other? I know you taught abroad with your husband, so can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, you can go abroad as a couple or as friends or, whatever you want to call yourselves. That's definitely possible. It's usually easier if everyone is teaching, because when you go abroad, oftentimes, as we've mentioned, in many countries, it's enough to support one person, and you also need to take into consideration visas. So if you both work, that's usually in everyone's best benefit. just to support themselves and for visa purposes. And you can live together and work at the same school. You'll probably want to push one another off a cliff, though, if you do that. So instead, I recommend maybe living together and working at schools in the same city, or even living apart and working at schools in the same city so you guys can visit. And that way, when you work at a school and have, a dozen coworkers, your friend or spouse will have another dozen coworkers, and you'll, just kind of multiply your social circle. So yes, it's absolutely possible, but definitely something to talk to your advisor about as well.
Excellent. Well, there are more questions in the question box here. We're not going to be able to get to everything here tonight. We had about 175 attendees this evening, so thanks everyone for showing up. Every question that you asked, every answer that I typed into you got recorded and will be passed along to your advisor. So if I didn't get to your question, or if I said something along the lines of like, hey, that's a great question, you should talk with your advisor about more details because it was just too much to type into a chat box, they're going to get passed along to your advisor, so they will follow up with you. They'll know exactly the questions you asked and kind of what you're looking for. And we're really excited to kind of help make this adventure happen for you. And it's natural for you guys to ask a lot of questions. It's great. You are thinking about packing your life up and moving around the world, so you should be asking questions, and that's why we're here. So we are going to sign off this evening. So John and Cassie, thank you as always. It's always a pleasure. You guys do a fantastic job, and thank you to you guys who tuned in this evening. And hopefully we will be seeing your Facebook and Instagram posts in the coming months from you, taking an adventure and going and seeing the world.